and then like through this mountain climbing, like it's not cheap at all. And it takes a certain type of person who wants to put themselves in that type of danger to like spend so much time, because you can spend.
So what kind of danger is on these expensive mountain hikes not hikes, excuse me, expeditions?
So do you know what happened to me a couple months ago in Bolivia?
I have an idea, but why don't you tell anyone who's listening?
So I had a number of things happen on that.
So you're in Bolivia. When is this? You said a couple months ago.
Yeah, it was like November.
So November 2023, you go to Bolivia.
Go to Bolivia with a group of buddies. We're going to a 6,000 meter summit, which is about.
How high is 6,000 meters? It's like,
in like American, it's like 20,000. So that's extremely high. So in an airplane.
So give a comparison to something maybe in America. Is there a mountain that you could compare? Do you know one that's like a 20,000?
No. So when I did Rainier was 14,000. Rainier.
Okay, so it's bigger than Mount Rainier in Washington.
Substantially. Yeah. And it's more technical. It's much more challenging. Rainier has some parts depending on the route you go.
So when it's technical, you need to use what, like ice picks and the
spike boots? Oh, you're climbing vertical ice,
okay.
And you've got the boots, and you're on a rope team, and it's challenging. So when you hear about like going a quarter mile or ascending 500 feet, it's like, well, look at the terrain. It's not like climbing, Mount Kowser.
So why, for some people listening, I'm sure they're really like excited by that and like that sounds awesome. Well, and for some people who are, I should tell
you what happened to me.
Well, for some people like me, like why? Because to me, I'm like, I would never want to do that. Like, so what makes you want to do that?
So it's an interesting thing because you put so that day that I summited, what I'm about to tell you and what happened to me was a 17-hour summit. Now that's from high base camp.
You're hiking
17 hours straight.
Wow.
But that's not, we didn't start there. That's high base. I'm just counting from high base to summit back down.
So to get to high base,
took us a day.
So you're hiking or climbing for a whole day.
Yeah.
Just to get to a base camp. You spend the night.
Well,
you spend the night,
we got there at 7 p.m. and you always leave at midnight. So you leave at midnight because ideally you want to summit at sunrise because 80% of mountaineering accidents happen on the way down, and you want to be coming down during daylight so they can find you or recover the body, to be honest.
Got it.
So I developed high altitude pulmonary edema. So my right lung was bleeding at about 18,000. I could see the summit, and I decided it's called summit fever, and it's for stupid people like me who get this. And I'm like, I've come this far. I've been climbing for like this whole amount of time. I've got all this money invested. I don't want to let people down. I don't want to be a quitter. The summit's right there. And it's not right there, but it looks like it's right there. My right lung's bleeding. I'm spitting up blood, and I keep going up, which is stupid. But I keep going up. I get to the top, and I realize full on I have HAPE, high altitude pulmonary edema, and my right lung's bleeding. Like it's bad. It was really bad. On the way down, because my heart rate kept going up to like 175, and I was having all these like altitude related issues, I fell into a crevasse. Do you know what a crevasse is?
That's like just a crack in the ground.
Massive break in a glacier, and
it's just a fancy way of saying crevice.
But it's not. It kind of sounds like that, but that is actually how you say it. So I had my gear on, and I jumped. I tried to jump across, and I planted my right foot, but my weight above my waist didn't transfer, and I fell into it. And my guide saved my life. Like I fell into it like beyond here.
So are you like on a rope? Or
yeah, you're always on ropes. Yeah. So he caught me. I like tried to brace myself like with my feet as I was falling in. It was about 8 stories down, from what I could tell. I couldn't see past 8 stories, and so there was that high altitude pulmonary edema. Fell in my first crevasse. On the second one, we had whiteout conditions. So once we got under clouds, I couldn't see to the end of this room. Like I might be able to see to you, but not the wall because of all the snow and everything.
So let me ask you this. So so you, just to recap, so you're climbing up this mountain, you have this lung that's bleeding.
Yeah.
I could barely breathe. You say, I have to get to the top because that's just the kind of guy you are.
Because I was so close.
Yeah, and you're so close.
Yeah, I was
so far.
When I would
so
breathe,
close.
It was gurgling because there was so much fluid and blood.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And you're hacking up blood, you get to the top. Okay, from the descent to that crevasse, how long did it take you to get down there where you're like hanging over 8 stories?
I'd say 5 hours.
So you're 5 hours going down a mountain and then you're hanging
Yeah.
with an 8-story minimum fall.
Yes.
On a rope.
To death.
Still gurgling
Could have
blood.
fallen to my death. And then all of a sudden it just catches right. And then they do what's called a team rescue. So they pull me out. The next one, we were further down. This was a couple hours later, and whiteout conditions. And I'm leading. I'm the leader on the rope. And I put my foot down, and it goes right up to my knee. Like it had snowed over, but it was like part of a crevasse. The lasting issues, so those things happened and those things sucked. I was in the emergency room for a while.
In Bolivia. What was that like?
Nicer than here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was actually nicer than here. Got medevaced. They couldn't get my blood oxygen saturation over 90. When they brought me in, it was in
What
the
does
high
that mean?
70s. I was dying. And they had me, it's kind of a long story, but like they transported me for 2 hours from the base of the mountain to the emergency room. The emergency room is in La Paz, which is the highest city in the world. It's at 12,000. So because even on oxygen in
Wait,
the
La
emergency
Paz?
room, La Paz.
In Bolivia or
Bolivia.
La Paz? Okay, because
Yeah.
I always think La Paz, Mexico. Okay.
No. So they couldn't get my blood saturation up to like 97, 98 where it should be, even on like oxygen.
Wow.
So they had to medevac me
So
down.
what's going through your mind at that point?
I was kind of bummed I didn't get to do the last mountain. Like we had 3 planned.
That's totally you. It's like instead of being like, oh, I might die or might this, you're like, oh man, I don't get to, hike this last mountain.
Yeah, I wanted
Like,
to
I
do the
almost
last
just
one with
died
my
and
buddies.
blew up my lung on.
But actually, the lasting issue that I have, you may not know this, but my tibial nerve on my right leg collapsed on that hike. So I thought it was frostbite, but it was actually a collapsed tibial nerve. So the tibial nerve runs down the back of your leg, and it goes into what's called the tarsal tunnel right behind your ankle. And it basically is in control of like all the feeling and sensory in the back half of your foot. I have about a 50% loss of feeling in my right foot right now.
Oh, wow.
Today. Like I can't, I've gotten used to it a little bit. I have like a orthotic in, but I was limping. I could barely walk. And I thought that it was frostbite, but then after being out of the hospital a couple of days, I'm like, uh-oh, something's wrong.
That's
So I'm
pretty
still dealing
wild.
with that. So
So that's why you said people get offended if you call it a hike, because that's not a hike.
yeah, right. So that's not a hike. Like, and then the first one when I did Rainier, a guy died. And
That you knew?
No, I didn't know him. He was in a group right before us, but we were all
Still
ascending. And
frightening.
yeah, the helicopter came in, the basket goes down, and they recover the body. And that's a different thing because like you think about like, oh yeah, I know this could happen, but when you see the body of somebody who just died, and they were attempting to do what you're doing, then it puts everything in perspective. And it's kind of like, I have a wife, I have a daughter, I have all
Yeah.
these responsibilities, and that guy just lost his life. Like, is this really worth it? Should I do this? But then you do.